Hey, welcome to a new section of the YouTube Masterclass. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about, does equipment really matter? This entire section is all about helping you know what equipment we recommend for YouTubers. Now, before we get started, know that there are all kinds of cameras, microphones, lighting setups, everything you can imagine. There is so much out there, and brands are constantly putting out new cameras and new gear. At the end of the day, really any camera nowadays shoots great quality video. And so it doesn't matter what camera you get, what piece of equipment. Whatever you have, you can still be a great YouTuber. We are going to attach some documents and links to our recommended equipment, specific models, and that's going to come up a little bit later in this course or in this section. But for now, we want to talk about really the basic premise of, does equipment matter? Why don't I believe that equipment matters much? I believe that equipment doesn't really matter because on YouTube, it's all about content and quality of the story over the quality of the video itself. Of course, there's a basic sort of level that you have to get up to. You have to have a camera to be able to see the video. You have to have a microphone to be able to hear the audio. But aside from that, you can truly make great, entertaining videos that go viral, that help build your brand with a basic camera. So I do truly believe that the content of your video is way more important than the quality of your video camera or the quality of your settings. So please stop having that analysis paralysis of whether you should get X gear or Y gear, X camera, Y camera. Just focus on creating great content and really telling a story and sharing your life and your story with the audience. All right, but on the flip side, why does equipment matter? As much as I say that equipment doesn't matter and you could still make a great viral hit on YouTube with any camera, there are some things to keep in mind. Audio, I believe, is almost more important than video quality, especially on YouTube, because so many people are watching YouTube videos in a small device, either a mobile phone, a tablet, or just on their computer in a web browser that's either just super small, squished to the side, or it's even on a web tab that's behind what they're actually doing. At least that's what I do all the time. And so with YouTube videos, audio really does matter. A lot of your audience could forgive you for poor video quality if it's not professionally lit, if it's not 4K. Those things can be forgiven. But in terms of audio quality, if there's a lot of distortion, if it's too quiet, too loud, those are things that aren't going to be as forgiven as easily, and it might even turn away some potential viewers. So depending on your camera setup, having a better quality microphone is one of the first investments that I would make, and I'm going to be going over into specific models in one of the next lessons. Higher video quality is a bonus, I feel. So if you are shooting 4K, if you're upgrading from a smartphone to a mirrorless camera that has interchangeable lenses, that sees better in low light, that has that nice blurry depth of background, depth of field bokeh, that's the kind of thing that can increase the quality of your video and make it look prettier. And some people might think, well, since it looks prettier, maybe these videos are better in general. This YouTuber is more professional and I'm more likely to watch those videos. And that can happen. But remember, at the end of the day, if you're just getting started out, don't worry about that stuff. Another point to make, though, is that your competition is making great quality video. No matter what topic you're making a channel on, whatever your niche is, there's probably someone else in that same niche that is making outstanding videos with professional setups, maybe multi-camera, professional lit sets, and that's okay. We can't all, unless we have an infinite amount of resources, we can't all have that kind of setup, especially when we're getting started out. But know that if you're making a video with a smartphone, someone else is going to be making that same style of video with a professional camera. And while I'm saying all of this, truly I do believe that you can get started with any camera. So the next thing we're going to cover though is the type of video setup you need. There's different styles of videography or video production that you might be doing as a YouTuber, and depending on that style, you're going to have a different setup. So let's dive into that in the next lesson. So there are different types of video setups that I want to go through, and the basic ones that I kind of created these buckets for include vlog style, talking head / demonstration, documentary, narrative, and creative. So first we have the vlog style. So vlog typically could mean anything because it started out as video blog, but what it's transformed to is this style of video production where you are filming yourself at a close range. So you are carrying around a camera and you are just going about your daily business and you are filming it. So you've probably seen a lot of vlogs on YouTube, and search for whatever topic you're interested into and then vlog, and you'll find some examples on YouTube. With talking head / demonstration, this is actually more of that sort of setup, what I'm doing right now, where I have a static camera. I'm talking to the camera. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that do sort of like news shows or commentary, and they are literally just talking to the camera, or they're doing sort of more of a screencast and they are looking at the screen, gaming, that kind of thing. And this is more of that talking head setup. I also include this sort of demonstration style because it's very similar, and that could be where you're doing sort of like a cooking show or something like that, where you are showing something, cooking, it could be sewing, something creative, arts and crafts. That's a demonstration, and it's a similar setup. And we're going to be going through all the equipment you need for these setups in just a second. Next, you have documentary. This is where you are going out, you are filming something. This is journalistic, and maybe it's just you as a one-man team, and you have your setup and you're going out, or it's multiple people, but this is where you're capturing the world. It's not capturing yourself. And then lastly, we have narrative / what I'll call creative, which is a bucket of lots of things, such as just creative sort of experimental films, or it could be something like a music video. And this is really more of a higher production value where you are coming up with a story. This is just like a high budget Hollywood film. This is on a smaller scale. You have potentially a team, you could be filming it by yourself, but again, it's a different style of setup than like vlogging, for example. So what are the equipment? What's kind of the basic equipment you need for each of these setups? With the vlog setup, it's super simple. At the very basic, it could just be a smartphone or a camera that records yourself facing you, and even if it's the internal microphone, that's fine, but it's just a camera and you're holding it. If you want to increase the quality of your vlog, you're getting something like an onboard microphone that plugs into your camera, but it's just right on the camera. It's not external. It's not someone carrying around a boom mic, or it could technically be a lavalier mic that clips onto your shirt or something like that. But usually it's just all plugged in right there into the camera. And then you have something to hold the camera. So for a while, a lot of people have been using Gorilla Pods or selfie sticks to hold their cameras. There's a new product out called Switch Pod that I'm interested in, and I've backed the Kickstarter for, and I'm going to be getting my Switch Pod because it's really a tripod, a mini tripod built for vloggers. And by the time this course is up, it might be out and you can purchase it, and I'll be doing some sort of review of it, I'm sure, once I get my hands on mine. But that's just it's literally just something that holds your camera and your microphone, and you can just go around and film. It's super simple. With talking head setup, it's very similar. So you have your camera. I would recommend an off-camera microphone, just so that if you are standing a little bit farther from the camera, which is probably on a tripod like the one I'm using right now, filming myself, and you want the microphone to be as close as possible to you speaking. And so what I have, you can't see it right here, but I have a boom microphone. So you probably hear that. That's a boom microphone, a shotgun microphone. You can use those terms interchangeably, but it's pointed right in front of my mouth, and it gets higher quality sound than if it was attached to the camera itself. A lot of other talking head videographers use lavalier microphones or lapel mics. I mentioned that just a second ago. Those are the little microphones that clip to the top of a shirt, and it's great because you can walk around and it still gets great audio. You can probably tell if I turn to the side right here, that if I start talking to the side, the audio quality isn't going to be as great. And that's because shotgun mics do really well pointed. They're very directional. So if they're directed in front of the person speaking, it's going to pick up great audio. But as soon as I move away, the audio quality is not going to be as good. And that's one of the benefits of a lavalier mic. Again, we're going to be going over specific models that I recommend in one of the next lessons. I mentioned having a tripod. You'll definitely, if this is something that you are filming yourself, you're going to need your camera to be on something. And then lights. So I'm using a lighting setup, a basic 2-light setup right now. You can be using the classic 3-point lighting setup. These are all things we're going to be covering in the future. But really, if you're going to be doing this a lot, it's a good idea to eventually invest in a lighting kit that you can have set up to make your video creation as efficient as possible. Now I'm just going to go through these last couple really quickly because I'm not sure how many of you are doing this style of video. But with a documentary setup, it's a camera or maybe multiple cameras. Even if you're filming yourself, you could be shooting an interview with multiple angles or with multiple filmmakers. You have your on-camera microphone that is attached to your mic that is capturing sort of just the ambient audio that you're getting and just the natural sound of wherever you're filming. You know, you're filming a basketball game and you're hearing the sneakers on the court and the bounce of the ball and the clank of the hoop. Those are things that it's great to capture with a microphone that's attached to your camera. You might also have an off-board microphone. This would be similar to the talking head style, a shotgun mic or a lav mic if you're doing interviews and capturing sort of someone talking and you need that better quality. You can do this with an onboard microphone, but if you're farther than just a couple feet away from the person, I recommend an off-board microphone. Here you would use some sort of stabilization like a tripod. If you're static, a monopod, which is great for run and gun. If you're moving around, monopods are great for that. Helps you get steadier shots, pans and tilts, or some sort of stabilization like a gimbal that balances your camera and gets you those steady shots. With in-camera stabilization nowadays and future cameras, and that are most likely going to have better in-camera stabilization. Some cameras don't even need a gimbal anymore, but for now with the bigger cameras, if you are using a mirrorless or DSLR camera, you might need some sort of gimbal or cage at least to hold your camera and get it steadier than just handheld. And then of course lights, if you are doing an interview setup, or even if you're just capturing scenes in a house or something, you might need to add your own artificial lighting so that everything's exposed properly. Next, we have the narrative setup. This is using one camera, multiple cameras. Typically, this is an off-camera microphone, like a boom microphone, so you can hear your talent. Most narrative films don't use lavalier microphones. They will have a boom operator who is shooting or recording the audio with a shotgun mic. And then you're going to have a tripod, monopod, any kind of stabilization. It could be on a shoulder rig, just some sort of stabilization for the camera, and then definitely lights if you are setting up a scene. Some people just shoot with natural light, and with some of the cameras you can shoot in really low light situations nowadays. But still, it's a good idea to practice using lights and to have a lighting kit to help share your story and to create a mood with lighting even. All right, so these are all the different setups that I've created, or the buckets of setups. So the first thing you want to do is think about what setup are you going to use. Now, sometimes you can have the same equipment that is available and works for multiple setups. You might be doing vlog style, but then also documentary style, and that's perfectly fine. But for your main type of setup, that's the basic equipment that you're going to need. Now in the next lessons, we're going to get what you've all been waiting for, and we're going to dive into specific recommendations for all the gear that you need to be a YouTuber. See you then. In this lesson, I'm going to be going over my camera recommendations. Now, before I get started, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is, like I mentioned earlier, camera manufacturers are coming out with new models of cameras at all times. So by the time I launch this course and by the time that you're watching this video, there's probably going to be new models and new versions of all the cameras that I recommend. But typically these camera manufacturers all have like a certain line of camera, and they're all very similar. So for example, you might have the basic entry-level DSLR camera for Canon, and they come out with a new version of that camera every 3 or 4 years. Whatever sort of model you have, just look and see if there's a newer version before you purchase and when you're looking at the specific models. The next thing is that you might be asking what camera brand is going to be best for you. And I honestly believe that any brand is going to have a great camera for video production for YouTube. There are some specific things that you need to consider, and it's going to make some cameras better than others. Those things include the resolution option. So if you can shoot in 4K or just in regular 1080p, in the future, this might be outdated and everyone is shooting 4K, but right now, not everyone is. So some people might be shooting 8K in the future. Who knows where it's going to go? And the option similar to that usually comes with options for recording in slow motion. So if you're shooting sports, action, more creative films, you might want those options as well. Another thing is if it has a flip out screen that articulates and rotates towards the person in front of the camera. This is important for vlog style or talking head video if you're speaking to the camera directly. Autofocus, another big thing if you are doing vlog style videos, especially if you don't have that rotating screen, but even so, it's really hard to see if you're perfectly in focus when you are doing sort of a vlog style video. And so having great autofocus is a great idea. Microphone inputs. Most cameras will have a microphone input so that you can plug in an external microphone that gets better audio. But some cameras don't. Sometimes you need an adapter, or even for like a phone, for example, not all microphones will work plugging directly into the mic jack that is in this phone. So that's one thing to consider as well. Size and weight. So are you going to be traveling? Is it just going to be static in a studio? This is something to consider. And then the cost of lenses and accessories. So this is sort of another sort of thing about brands. So if you already have a Canon camera and a bunch of Canon lenses, for example, and you're thinking about upgrading, it might not be worth it to switch over to Sony, for example, because you're going to have to repurchase the lenses that you want or you need for your video. So there's lots of things to consider with purchasing a camera, and at the end of the day, I truly believe any camera is going to be great. We're going to be going over the budget sort of style of camera. We're going to be moving up into more of a hobbyist, which is sort of a mid-range camera, and then more into the professional grade. So let's get started and jump right into, I'm going to be using BH Photo Video, which is the store that I purchased my gear from. You can purchase this all from Amazon, all sorts of places. The very first camera I would recommend you looking at using is your smartphone. If you have a modern smartphone, it probably shoots great HD or even 4K quality video. You can do selfie mode so that you can see yourself, great for vlogging, and you can even plug in some types of external microphones to get better audio. If you want to take it to the next level, if you're more at sort of a desk setup and you're doing talking head videos or you're doing screencast videos and you want video as well, if you're doing live streaming, using a webcam is a great option. So the webcams that I've used in the past include the Logitech C920 Pro camera. It's only $50 now. I think I bought it several years ago, 5-10 years ago, and it was $75, but it still shoots great high quality HD footage. And while you might be saying, well, I want a camera that can shoot 4K video, if you're doing webcam footage, this will also depend on if your computer can even record 4K video from a webcam, which not many can. And then also, if you are doing something like live streaming, can your internet speed handle 4K footage? So that's just something to consider. There is a 4K camera from Logitech that a lot of people do recommend, the Logitech Brio webcam. So I would recommend either of these, the C920 or the Brio. So that's the webcam that I would recommend. Taking it a step up, I think having a mirrorless or a DSLR camera is your next level for improving your video quality. What does that mean? Well, a DSLR and mirrorless camera are cameras that have interchangeable lenses, meaning you can take the lens off, switch it for another lens, and that really allows you to be more creative with your footage. It also will have that more film-like aesthetic, which a lot of people like. allows you to get those blurry backgrounds, that shallow depth of field. These are things that a lot of filmmakers are striving for, and even just 10 years ago was really hard to do on a low budget. But now anybody with a DSLR or mirrorless camera can get that with whatever they're shooting on. So the entry-level Canon Rebel series is what I would recommend if you are just getting started out. The T7i is the sort of the lowest or the latest model of this Rebel series. Right now it's $800, so anything $800 or less I would consider sort of entry-level DSLR. Now, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, they're all going to have similar cameras in this budget, and they're all going to do very similar things. I'm going to say this one last time so I don't start to annoy you, but brand doesn't matter. So you might be saying, well, Phil's recommending the Canon Rebel T7i. Any of the brands that have any sort of entry-level DSLR camera is going to be great for you getting started out. And a lot of these cameras don't have a lot of extra bonus features, so really the decision is up to you and finding a good deal. If you want to take it sort of to the next level, the next level for Canons currently is the Canon 80D. So this series went from the 60D, the 70D, 80D. In the next year or so, I think a 90D is coming out. This camera has a little bit better autofocus, but really the quality of the video is going to be very similar to that of the Rebel series. But this is a very popular camera for YouTubers. Now, another camera that I would recommend that a lot of YouTubers use, which is great for beginners, is the Panasonic G7. This is a 4K camera, and Panasonic is really great for video creators. So while I say brand doesn't matter, Panasonic has done a great job putting in a lot of features that video creators want in their cameras, and the G7 is a great starter camera for you. Moving up sort of to another tier, Sony has released a relatively recent mirrorless camera, the Sony a7 III. So as you can see, the budget kind of jumped from like $1,000 to over $2,000 for a camera. There's still cameras in between that are going to be great, but this is sort of one of the most popular cameras at this time for video creators that want a full frame camera. I'm not going to go into all these details because I actually have a course called the Video Production Bootcamp where we go over all the basics of video production if you're interested in. This class is more meant to just give you the recommendations, but basically a full frame camera has a bigger sensor, and that bigger sensor will generally provide higher quality video, especially in low light situations. So with the, for example, the Canon Rebel camera or the 80D, this is a cropped sensor, meaning it's smaller, and so the quality is not going to be as high as something like the a7 III, which has a full frame sensor. This is a new camera. Autofocus is generally pretty good. Across the board, most people will say Canon cameras have better autofocus. There's some people that complain about Sony skin tones, but they're getting better. But like I said before, any of these cameras is going to be great. So this is kind of a next step up. If you want to even jump up a little bit further for Sony, the a7R III is another extra $1,000 or so, but it's going to have more features. The sensor is going to be a little bit better. You're going to get some more features in video as well. Bumping it up, we have the Canon 1DX. So this is, at this time, their sort of highest end DSLR camera. You can see though it's starting to get a lot bigger compared to these other cameras. Now it's hard to tell on the computer, but this camera is pretty big. But some of my favorite YouTubers actually use this camera to do vlogging, which is pretty large and it's pretty expensive. If you want to take it to the next level, you kind of jump from what I've been showing you, the mirrorless DSLR style body cameras, to a more professional cinema camera. One example is the Canon C100 Mark II. This is the camera that I'm actually using right now. This is a bigger camera. It's a little bit more expensive than a basic DSLR, but you can see that it's actually cheaper than something like the Canon 1DX. This camera doesn't shoot 4K. There is a C200 version, And there's even a C300, C500 version of this camera that are more expensive and have more options. But the C100 version that I'm using right now is great because it has the great Canon autofocus. It has all the inputs that you would want as a filmmaker. So this is probably more for sort of an advanced video creator if you're doing more documentary or narrative style work. It's not for vlogging. It's great for talking head video where I'm set up in a studio and I just want a camera that's set up all the time ready for me to start recording. But this is sort of that next level up. And there are cameras like this from Sony. There are Panasonic cameras like this. And they're more that professional cinema style camera. So if you're curious about like what other camera models there are similar to the ones that I've mentioned, just search for best Nikon camera for YouTubers, best mirrorless camera for YouTuber, and you'll find a lot of recommendations online. And if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask. But I am going to just tell you what I've experienced myself, and I haven't used every single camera. But hopefully this kind of gets you started with understanding what things you have to think about with cameras, what features you like, and what features you need, and then really what your budget is. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on equipment, but at some point, spending more money isn't going to increase the quality of the video camera itself, and it's definitely not going to increase the quality of your YouTube video. Like I say, you can create a great YouTube video with what's in your pocket, your smartphone. So again, stop the analysis paralysis. Just if you are in the search for a new camera, purchase something, test it out. You can even rent it. A lot of camera shops have rentals. There's websites like borrowlenses.com that allow you to rent cameras, and you can test it out for a week or two and see if you like it. Watch YouTube videos to see what other people are using and recommending. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a camera now and the longer you wait to purchase your camera, it just means that you're wasting time and you're not making videos when you could be making videos if you purchase that camera right now. All right, thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. In this lesson, I'll go over my audio recommendations, including microphones and audio recorders I recommend for YouTube. So a couple brands that I do recommend, and generally most of their products are going to be good, are Rode, Sennheiser, Shure, and Heil. So starting out, we're going to be looking at some onboard microphones. This is probably the first thing that you're going to do to increase the quality of your audio. If you have a DSLR camera or something like that, you're going to get a camera that plugs in, because generally the internal microphone of a camera like that isn't going to get such great audio. So one of the best and favorites for YouTubers out there right now is the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus on-camera shotgun mic. So this, as you can see, just would plug in and go on top of your camera like so. Great for vlogs, great for documentary style, and even talking head video if you are sitting close up to your camera. There are some cheaper versions or smaller versions, such as the Rode Video Micro compact camera or my audio, and this is great. I actually have a GoPro setup for some vlogging that I use this microphone for. Another option is if you are using a smartphone, just to improve the quality of your smartphone audio, the Rode Smart Lav is a great lav mic that you can use to plug directly into your smartphone. All right, sort of moving it up to the next level, if you are shooting in a studio or narrative, or you have a boom operator, a shotgun microphone is really going to provide the best quality audio out there. And the microphone I'm using right now is the Rode NTG3. So as you can see, it's just a long cylindrical shotgun microphone. The kit that I purchased has the sort of foam filter and a case and things like that. But this, as you can see, actually you can't see, but it doesn't just plug into any camera. It has an XLR output or input. That's the connector you need. And so this is only going to plug into certain cameras, like a professional camera like the Canon C100, or into an external audio recording device, which I'm going to go over in just a minute. If you want a cheaper version of this shotgun mic, but something that's still high quality, the Rode NTG2 is a great option. A different brand, but still a great one, is the Sennheiser ME66/K6 sort of combo. It's a very similar quality and sound as the Rode NTG3 microphone. Now moving on to just regular lavalier setups. So I would recommend having a wireless setup. It's just easier and the quality of the wireless setups are great now. Now you can't be running, 100 yards away and get crystal clear audio, but if you're even 20, 30 feet away, you should be able to get great audio with something like the Sennheiser G4 microphone setup. So this has 2 packs. So it's one that's attached to either the camera or whoever's recording the audio, and the other one is attached to the person talking. And again, though, this setup doesn't plug directly into a camera unless it's an XLR camera or has that XLR input. You might be able to get some sort of converter, but generally I would recommend using an audio recorder. Again, I'm going to be looking at that in a second. The Rode Link wireless kit is a similar setup. Great, just wireless setup for filmmakers. And so those are the 2 sort of wireless lavalier setups I would recommend. There are wired lavalier setups. So if you are in more of a studio setup and you're just in one place and you don't need it to be wireless, then having a wired microphone, it can be perfectly fine. But I found that the wireless setups just are more versatile. All right, so those are sort of all the recommendations I have for going out and improving your sound depending on your setup. So remember the types of setup we talked about earlier in this section. But if you're just getting started out and you're like, hey, Phil, just tell me the one camera I need, I would recommend the onboard microphone like this Rode VideoMic Pro Plus microphone. This is just going to take your audio quality to another level, and it's very versatile as well for lots of types of video making. There is one other style of video making that I'm going to recommend some microphones for, and that's if you are more doing sort of just voiceover, if it's just screencast, if you're doing gaming, or if you're just in one place and you're on your computer filming, and that's more of a studio microphone like the Rode Podcaster microphone. So even if you're not doing a podcast, this is a type of mic that would be great just sitting at your desk and recording. The one that I have is actually different. It's called the Heil PR40. This is a very professional sort of radio microphone, a great studio mic, and that's what I use for my podcasting. So this is, again, going to be a step up. And then if you want more of a basic model, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 is a great one. The quality of this for $64 really can't be beat. And the benefit of this microphone is it's both an XLR output, but also USB. So it can easily be plugged directly into your computer, similar to the Blue Yeti. This is a USB microphone that just plugs directly into your computer, gets great quality sound. If you're sitting at one desk, this really can't be beat. These other ones like the Heil PR40, it's just an XLR output. So I need to route it through either an audio board, or what I use is an audio recorder, finally getting to those, such as the Zoom H6. And this can actually route any microphone and turn it into a USB microphone, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm actually recording this entire course and all these videos directly into my computer. And so I have my microphone plugged in, this shotgun microphone plugged into my computer, as well as my camera. So the other benefit of an audio recorder like this, though, is that you can use one of those other sort of wireless setups, a shotgun microphone, if you're out in the field, if you're not at a computer and you don't have a camera that has XLR inputs. So this is a great option. You can plug up to 4 microphones into it, and it even has a great microphone itself. You can see the stereo microphone right here. Great if you're a musician. It records really high quality sound. It has dials for all the different inputs, so you can really manually adjust all of the sound. There's a sort of more basic model, the Zoom H4n. So this one has 4 channels, Zoom H4n, compared to the H6, which has 6 channels. And this one has 2 inputs, and it also has a stereo mic as well. But this is a tool that can't be beat and is really useful if you are doing more documentary style work or low budget narrative work. Again, a lot of you aren't going to be really needing this, especially if you're just shooting sort of vlog style talking head video, and that's where I would just recommend getting a microphone that can plug directly into your camera, such as the Rode VideoMic Pro. Awesome, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one. In this lesson, I'm going to go over the lighting recommendations I have. Once you start to get more involved with your YouTube channel, or if you want to create sort of a studio setup, it's a great idea to invest in a lighting kit so that you can always be ready to film, no matter if it's dark outside or light outside. When you are getting started, I do recommend just using a bright open window, sitting next to that window, not in front of the window and with the camera facing the window, but with the window facing you and the camera, all that light shining down on you so that you can have nice lighting. It's a great way to get started, but once you start to get a little more advanced, it's a great thing to actually purchase a lighting kit. Some things to consider when you are buying a kit: the number of lights that it comes with. I definitely recommend getting at least 2 lights. 3 or even 4 lights is a good idea. I'll talk about why in a second. The type of light that you're purchasing. So there's lots of different video lights out there. We've got LED lights, fluorescent lights, incandescent lights. Most of the new lights coming out are LED lights, and that's what I would recommend now because they don't use a lot of energy, they don't get hot, and those are 2 things that the other types like incandescent lights can actually get quite hot if you're using a light that's really powerful and can use more energy. Fluorescent lights are still pretty good, but I find that the LED panels are easier, smaller, and just as good nowadays. You definitely want to consider the power of the light source itself. So how bright do you need to get to have a well-lit scene? So this is determined in watts. And so I have a 500 watt LED panel shining down on me right now. There are light panels that are a lot higher wattage, a lot lower wattage. And that's just something to consider if you're going very budget. If you're just getting a light that has like 50 or 100 watts, it might not be bright enough in some situations, but it could be a great way to get started. And then the size and portability. So if you are running and gunning, walking around, you might want a light kit that has lights that you can just quickly, carry in a backpack and set up, or maybe even a light that can even fit on the top of a camera. Those are things to consider. Now let's look at some of the recommendations I have, but first I want to talk about 3-point lighting. Now, I mentioned in a previous lesson, this is not a video production course. We're not going to show you everything about how to create videos. We have a video production bootcamp course for you if you're interested in, but the basic 3-point lighting setup is important. I have an article on my website, videoschoolonline.com. If you're interested in, just head over to there, click video, and you can find this article or search for 3-point lighting. And this comes up. So basically, with 3-point lighting, you have 3 lights, and this is a standard setup that you can use pretty much for anything, for talking head videos, documentary, even narrative. You have your main light, which is called the key light, and that's just usually next to the camera shining brightly on your subject. I have 1 key light shining on me right now. Then you have a fill light. So the fill light goes on the opposite side so that it fills in any shadows. Depending on how dramatic or stylistic you want your video to look, you might want more shadows on one side of the face or the other. And so right now I actually only have 1 key light. I don't have a fill light coming in over here, but I do have a window that if I opened up or set up my other light, I could get some fill in there so that it brightens up this side of my face if you want more of like that sort of flat look. Then you have the backlight. Now the backlight is important because it separates the subject from the background. This could either be like you see here in this image, it could be shining directly on the subject, which sometimes is very nice. It gives a nice sort of separation, a nice glow to the shoulder and to the head, which is good. Or what I do is I have my backlight shining up against the wall behind me. So if I turn this off, you can probably see the difference. On, off. See how it creates sort of not only a stylistic vignette, but it also does add some separation and depth. It's kind of hard to see maybe in the small screen, but it adds some depth to the video. I find that just having just one light without any background light, it just doesn't look that good. And this is why having multiple lights is good. You might want a light that's actually shining on me as a backlight, like you see in this image, and one shining on the background like this, and a fill light. So you might need 4 lights for that. Of course, you can use other equipment, and I would just recommend looking at this article. There's diffusion. You can use a bounce card or a bounce board or a reflector. If you don't have 3 lights, you can use a bounce as a fill itself. You can even use a window, like I mentioned, as the fill light. So if I didn't, like I said, I can just use this window over here. All right, so definitely check that out if you're more interested in. Now the lights that I use are called Dracast, or that's the brand. This is, if you search for Dracast LED light, you can see all kinds of different panels. You can put together your own kit that you want, or they do actually have kits pre-made. The one that I have is the Dracast ENG plus 4 light kit. So it has 4 lights. Actually 2 are 100 watt equivalents, so it's as bright as a normal 100 watt bulb, and then a 500 and then a 200. And the 200 is great because it's all these can be battery powered, and they can be strapped onto a camera or just run and gun. That's great. One other thing to consider with lighting is so confusing to beginners, and I do recommend our video production bootcamp if you're really interested in learning all of this and the nitty-gritty. But lights come in different temperatures, meaning some light is cooler, more blue, and some is warmer, more orangish. And you can probably imagine that when you think of like an old Edison style bulb, it's really yellow compared to something like an LED light or a fluorescent light that is actually more blue or cool. And so that's something to consider, because if you're shooting outside, you'll want to have lights that are balanced to daylight, which is more of that LED style light. Or if you're shooting inside with other sort of natural light bulbs in the background from your house, you might need a more tungsten based light. Now, I know this is very, very confusing, so I'm hopefully going to include some resources that help explain color temperature, or just go over to YouTube and search for understanding color temperature so you can understand the actual temperature of lights, so you know which ones you're getting. A lot of the LED lights either are by temperature, by color, so you can actually change them from one to the other, or like my kit, you can just put a little filter in it depending on if you want to change the temperature. The other thing to note about this though is as long as you have your white balance set on your camera properly, it's going to look natural. You're not going to look like super orange or super blue no matter what lighting kit you're using. So a lot of things there. Dracast, a brand that I've purchased and I've loved since I purchased these lights. There are other brands out there, of course. Aperture is a brand that a lot of YouTubers are using. This Aperture C120D is a great kit. And then you put on something like this big dome filter that filters the light, and it's nice, bright, soft light. That is something that's really important too, is when you're using these lights, you want to make sure you have some sort of filtration so that it does make the light softer. That generally looks better in video rather than some really harsh light without any filtration. There's, like I said, there's all kinds of lighting kits out there. If you go to BH Photo Video and you go under their lighting section and then go to continuous lighting, you'll see all kinds of different lights. Let's go click on LED lights. And there are some that are cheaper, some more expensive. You can get little kits that are a couple $100s, and that might be something you consider just to get started. But remember, Dracast, Aperture, those are 2 brands that I recommend. Now, if this is too expensive and you want a really, really simple DIY setup, I would consider the paper lantern setup. This is from a blog article of mine. It's got my setup that I used to have on my desk. So it has these paper lanterns. So it has, see how there's those just paper lantern bulbs, and then I had lights inside there. And again, it's that lantern that diffuses the light and it makes it super soft. I actually have a couple videos on my YouTube channel, so just go to the Phil Ebner YouTube channel and search for lighting or light kit or paper lantern, and you'll see some examples of these lights. and my setup using them. I don't use them anymore, but you can get started with one of these lights or two of these lights for like 20 or 30 bucks, just running down to your local hardware store and IKEA or Amazon to get the paper lanterns. All right, see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going over my recommended editing apps and screencasting apps. And with those screencasting apps, some of them actually have built-in editors, which is great. You get everything all in one. Now with video editing, I've been editing video for over almost 2 decades now, and it's actually what I've done professionally after college and studying film production before I started my online business. But a lot of my online business has me editing videos. So I'm really well versed in this, so if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. Like anything, there are free low budget options that have limited abilities but are great to just getting started with. And there's higher end, more expensive professional options that have more options within them, but it is going to cost more. So for your free options, iMovie that comes with Mac computers or Windows Movie Maker is a great option for PC users, and these are just great for just getting started. Filmora is sort of a low budget video editor that has a lot of features actually, but you can make great professional videos with it, and it's a great option. GoPro Studio is a free editing app that comes with your GoPro, but even if you're not using GoPro, I believe you can download it for free from their website, and it has some features that make it super easy to use, especially on mobile phones and mobile tablets. You can actually edit right there. Speaking of, I don't have it on this list, but Adobe has released Adobe Premiere Rush, which is a more basic video editing app, great for on-the-go editing, great for editing on your mobile devices as well. In terms of professional editors though, I recommend Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro X. Adobe Premiere Pro is what I use and I've used for many years. It is annoying that you have to pay a subscription to purchase this app, but overall it's just the best that I've found, and it's the most powerful. It's what most other professional video creators are using on YouTube. There's just so many features of it and so many new updates and things that are coming out recently that make it really the best all-around video editing app with templates, with graphic templates and things like that that make creating great videos easier than ever. Final Cut Pro is great for Mac users, and I used to use Final Cut Pro, and I really recommend it. It's just I've been using Premiere Pro myself. I mentioned though screencasting, you might want to consider one of these apps for actual video editing as well. With just screencasting though, if you're trying to record your screen, you can use something like on a Mac, QuickTime Player, which has a built-in screen recording option, which is completely free, and you can record your screen. You can even record from your webcam, but that's all you can do. You can't really edit with it. Open Broadcaster Software, OBS, is a free sort of app that you can install both for Mac or PC users. Again, you can use this to record your screen, and also a lot of YouTubers use it to live stream. So you can use OBS to set up multiple cameras or multiple angles, and it's great for live streaming on different platforms, including YouTube. Ecamm Live is another option for doing this. It allows you to live stream to YouTube, to Facebook, and to control different things like what camera you're using. You can even switch from using one camera to just your screen to another camera that's plugged in. You can add inputs like different audio, and it's really great. You can even use this just to record your screen as well. And then, so really this screencasting app section should be called screencasting and live streaming apps that I recommend, because those two are the ones that I would recommend for that. And then for a more professional screencasting workflow, I would use ScreenFlow, which is available for Mac users, or Camtasia, which is Mac or PC. And then a more low budget option is Screencast-O-Matic. I haven't used it personally, but I have a lot of friends who have and swear by it. With any of these apps, the beauty is that you can record directly with the app and then edit right within it. The editing options are a little bit more limited compared to something like Premiere Pro, but sometimes those limitations are good because it helps you be a little bit more quicker, more efficient, and it's just a little easier to use these apps. And so really, it's an all-in-one tool. I record my videos in ScreenFlow, I edit them in ScreenFlow, I export them, and I don't have to be transferring files from my computer or my camera even to my computer and then importing them into something like Premiere Pro, which I do for a lot of different projects, but for just quick and easy YouTube videos, sitting at my desk, something like ScreenFlow is perfect. Cool. Let me know if you have any other recommendations for all of these things. I'm happy to share recommendations that you as students are using, and make sure you post those to the course as well so other students can see them. If you have any questions, let me know. One thing that some people ask is, can they get a student discount for any of these products by taking this course? Unfortunately, as just a teacher of this online course, places like Adobe don't allow that. You have to be enrolled in like an actual university with an educational email to get those kinds of discounts. So that is one thing I wanted to say here in case you were wondering. Awesome. I hope you've enjoyed this section so far, and we'll see you in the next lesson.